Let's talk about something we all face. Those really tough choices. The ones where it feels like any path you take could lead to a bad outcome. But what if you had a roadmap for those moments? Today, we're going to walk through a powerful framework designed to help you make clear, principled decisions even when things get messy. I mean, really think about that. You know the feeling, right? Stuck between a rock and a hard place, where every single option has a serious downside. It's a feeling we all get, whether it's at work or in our personal lives. And that's exactly the kind of situation we're diving into today. Well, the good news is we don't have to just go with our gut and hope for the best. Turns out there's a structured way to think through these kinds of problems. This model we're talking about, it's basically a step-by-step guide that helps turn a chaotic dilemma into a really solid, well-thought-out decision. To really see how this works, let's make it real. We're going to follow the story of Jay, a social worker, and his client, a man named Mr. Thompson. Now, Mr. Thompson absolutely adores his 12 cats, but he lives in a small apartment and his health is getting worse. It's a tough, complicated situation, and it's going to be the perfect example to see this model in action. Okay, so to understand this model, we've got to look at its foundation. When it was first created about 15 years ago, it was built on 4 big ideas, kind of like 4 pillars holding the whole thing up, making sure any decision was really thoughtful and complete. The first pillar is accountability. It's pretty simple. Can you stand by your decision? Can you explain why you made it? It's kind of like in math class. It's not enough to get the right answer. You have to be able to show your work. But of course, you can't just be accountable in a vacuum. And that brings us to the second pillar, consultation. This is just the common sense idea that you shouldn't go it alone. You've got to ask for other people's perspectives to see your own blind spots. Now, when you're getting those other perspectives, it is absolutely crucial to have cultural sensitivity. This means having a genuine respect for different backgrounds and worldviews, because what one person sees as right can be totally different for someone else. And wrapping all of this together is the final piece of the original toolkit, critical reflection. This is all about looking in the mirror, understanding your own biases, your own patterns, and really learning from every single choice you make, good or bad. So for 15 years, those 4 ideas were the whole playbook. But the world doesn't stand still, does it? The people who created this model realized that our world had gotten more complex, our understanding had deepened, and the toolkit needed an upgrade. It needed a 5th dimension. And that new dimension is interdependence. Honestly, the best way to get this is to picture a spider web. If you touch just one single strand, even way over on the edge, the entire web vibrates. That is the core idea here. Our actions create these ripple effects that connect us to other people, to animals, to the entire environment in ways we might not even see at first. So why add this? Well, it's because we've started to understand that we aren't just isolated actors. We have a responsibility to think about our connection to animals and the world around us. The goal is to make sure our choices don't cause harm we didn't intend, and to strive for a bigger kind of justice, one that really considers the needs of all living things. So now we've got the complete toolkit, the 4 original ideas plus this powerful new one, interdependence. But how do you actually use it? Well, let's see how these ideas get baked into a practical 5-step process. We're going to go right back to Jay's dilemma with Mr. Thompson and see how it unfolds. All right, step 1. Before you can solve anything, you have to know what the problem actually is. You have to get super clear about the fundamental conflict, the thing that's really at the heart of the dilemma. So the model makes you ask this really important question. What big ideas, what core values are clashing with each other here? This isn't just about what you should do, it's about figuring out what principles are really at stake. And in Jay's case, the conflict is immediately obvious. On one side, you have Mr. Thompson's right to self-determination, his basic freedom to live the life he chooses. But on the other side, you have Jay's professional duty of care, his responsibility to make sure Mr. Thompson is safe. And right now, those 2 things are pulling in opposite directions. Okay, once you're clear on the conflict, step 2 is all about identifying everyone and everything that has a real stake in what happens. So you have to ask, who really has a horse in this race? Who deserves to have their interests considered? This step is specifically designed to make us look beyond just the main characters in the story. So when Jay does this, he lists the obvious folks, Mr. Thompson, his kids, the landlord, the doctor. But then, look at that last one on the list. This is where that idea of interdependence really shines. The well-being of the 12 cats is considered a legitimate interest that has to be part of the decision. Step 3 is the homework phase. This is where you shift from thinking about principles and people to digging up cold, hard facts, rules, and data. You have to ground your decision in reality, right? So the model pushes you to look up the official guidance. What does your professional code of ethics say? What are the actual local laws? What are the company policies you have to follow? For Jay, this means it's time to hit the books. He's got to check his social work ethics codes. He needs to look up the local laws about how many pets you can legally own. He has to read the apartment building's rules. And he might even look up scientific studies on the health benefits of having companion animals. Now, with all that information in hand, we get to step 4. This is where you brainstorm. You lay out all the possible paths forward, and you start to weigh them against each other. And man, this is where things get really tough. You can see Jay's options here. He could go with option A and prioritize Mr. Thompson's safety above everything, but that totally stops on his client's wishes. Or he could go with option B and fully support Mr. Thompson, but that might mean breaking laws or building rules. Or there's option C, a middle ground that tries to balance everyone's needs but forces a painful compromise on everybody. There is just no easy answer here. And that brings us to the final and maybe the most important step. Step 5, critical analysis and evaluation. This is where you take a step back, you look at the whole process, and you reflect on the choice you made and why you made it. This is maybe the most powerful question in the whole process because it's about growth. It's not just about whether the outcome was good or bad. It's about looking at your own thought process and asking, can I really own this decision? Can I stand by it? And this kind of reflection is where real change can happen. Jay might realize that his own feelings about animals influenced him. But even bigger than that, he might see a flaw in the system, that there just aren't enough care options for elderly people with beloved pets. And he might decide to become an advocate for changing that. The single decision can spark a much wider good. And that right there is the power of the inclusive model. It takes that messy, stressful, what on earth do I do gut feeling and transforms it into a structured, rigorous, and principled decision. It gives us that map to find our way through the fog. So I'll leave you with a final thought. The next time you're facing one of those really tough calls, big or small, just take a second and think about that spider web. What are the ripple effects? What unseen connections to people, to animals, to the world around you are you going to look for?